Hello and welcome to Lost the Plot, a podcast where we overthink movies, books, and TV shows. I'm Devin.
And I'm Josiah, and today we're going to be talking about Knives Out.
Yeah.
6-year-old movie, Rian Johnson. The only other Rian Johnson movie I've seen is The Last Jedi. This movie's at least a little bit better than that one.
That's a hot take.
Really? Yeah. No. I mean, the Last Jedi had a better story for sure, and wasn't controversial at all. But I really like this movie.
Yeah.
I just want to say that at the beginning. This movie I really enjoy. And the story's really good. It's really compelling. The mystery sticks with you until the very end. You really have no clue what's going to happen. But we'll get into it. But what are your thoughts on, well, do you want to give a summary of the movie first?
Yeah.
And just kind of do that, and then we can get into some of the specifics.
So Knives Out, just a quick summary. If you haven't seen the film or if it's been a while, the premise of the film is that an eccentric mystery writer named Harlan ends up being murdered in his home, or commits suicide rather in his home. And a detective, Detective Blanc, he comes to investigate it to see whether or not it's a suicide or a murder. And then the premise of the film is just this Clue-esque mystery house, just a whodunit murder, with some twists and turns. You know, it starts off as a investigative whodunit thriller. It turns into this kind of crime thriller where you think you know who did it, and then it goes back to the mystery format at the end and pulls the rug out from under you. So, a good detective story. Who murdered Harlan? Yeah, with a bunch of twists and turns around the way. It's very straightforward in concept, but I think in execution it's very, very profound, very well done as a narrative.
Yeah, and I think a big key to the execution is the cast. The casting was really well done.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Craig did really good. Ana de Armas. Like, those two really sell the movie.
They do.
But then the family individually, or collectively, but also individually, they just help define the setting of the, like, we talked about right before we started recording about Rian Johnson and world building.
Yes.
And how that's not generally something he really emphasizes, but I feel like the family did all the world building we needed to know, which is, this is just the lay of the land of the family, and this is what they're walking into whenever this murder happens.
Yeah.
But the characters themselves are dumb as rocks. At one point or another,
True.
this is one of the best. Like, this is a really good mystery film, and Detective Blanc is very good and a really fun character, and he's really smart at the end. But even him, he's flat out stupid multiple times throughout the movie.
The detective.
That's
interesting.
Well, because like he doesn't quite figure it out until the very end. He's you know, he is a lot like Sherlock in that he has an aha moment where he figures out what the crime, like, and how it happened was. But he, at multiple points where you feel like he should at least know somewhat of what's going on, he seems
fair.
kind of aloof.
Interesting.
And then at the very end, whenever he actually they crack the case, like, Ransom, Chris Evans' character, just goes to try to stab Marta, and he didn't see it coming.
That's
with
fair.
A wall of knives right next to them.
I think Blanc's.
He's the smartest character in the movie.
He is.
And I don't know which character I find more compelling, Marta or Detective Blanc. They're very different, but both of them, I feel like those two are my favorites, hands down.
Yeah.
And they really sell the movie.
I agree.
But
so I guess we've talked a bit about Blanc, a bit about Marta. We've talked a bit about the family. I guess let's start at the beginning of the film and kind of just work our way through.
Yeah.
I really like the way that the film opens. It opens with these shots of the mansion itself, and it just does kind of like this rapid fire montage of different eccentric things that Harlan has here in his mansion. Weird dolls, odd decorations. You get the sense of who he is through the environment that he's created before you even see him as a character. And so you're introduced to this world that's filthy rich, it's eccentric, it's all revolving around this one guy. And I think that the movie very successfully lays that framework at the beginning of the film. You know, before you even see the body, you know what type of guy Harlan is, you know what type of world the story will take place in. Um, and I think it's a really good way to show characterization through the set design because nobody's spoken a line. You don't even see Harlan, but you just get a good sense of what kind of person he is through this environment that he's created. And that segues into Fran discovering the body with the slit throat in his attic. And then that segues pretty seamlessly into meeting the family. So what's your take on, or what are your thoughts on the family broadly? They're dumb as rocks for sure.
Yeah, they are the like perfect stereotype for like a rich family, an entitled family. I feel like what he does with politics and them talking about politics really informs it. I think that the way that they talk to Marta, like each one of them individually, I think at some point in the film tells them that they thought she should have been at the funeral, but they got outvoted. But they almost all of them tell her that to her face.
And they keep getting her country of origin wrong too.
Yeah, Ecuador and then Uruguay.
Yeah, Brazil.
Yeah.
They keep going back and forth. And they all say some variation of like, "Oh, well, your family will take care of you." But they don't know anything about her. And they treat her like help. Like she's just an employee. Which that is the relationship, but they treat her like she's lesser for it. Yeah, but you're right. It just shows the extent to which these aren't intelligent people. These are not observant people. These are not fun people to be around. They are stereotypical rich people. Done very well.
Yeah, and I like how initially it seems like it's going to be a traditional mystery where they give them assign motive to like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
And then before like right into the middle of the film, you find out what actually happened, like at least half the story.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it doesn't matter. Like you have the detective who still is trying to work through these motives, but as the audience, you know what happened.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. Like, you know, he did actually slit his own throat. And this is what we think is happening, and now we're following Marta trying to cover it up.
Yeah.
And so I like how we kind of use them to set that up and then just turn it on its head. And now it doesn't even matter what the family thinks.
Yeah.
And they reacted in a way that I would think any sort of entitled family would. Being just completely beside themselves and trying to be in his good graces while also just being incredibly stupid and immature and selfish.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and manipulating him to get money and all that stuff. So
they do a lot of legwork in the beginning of the film to establish a motive for several different members of the family. Walt runs the publishing company. He wants to adapt his dad's books into movies or TV shows to make more money, to get some more responsibility. Harlan says no. Meg is going to college. Her grandpa's paying for it. Threatens to cut her off because her mom was embezzling money from him. Richard, he's having an affair on his wife, who's Harlan's daughter. And then Ransom had some argument with him the night before he was murdered that he stormed out of. It's not a lot for each character, but it's just enough to make them all suspects.
Yeah.
They do a very good job of establishing who these people are, what they're like, and how they might have killed Harlan. I think there's a lot of good character work at the beginning of the film, too, because it starts off with this interview structure where they're being interviewed by the detective. And it's a great way to just get the characters talking because it puts them in this scenario where they have to talk, but they don't want to. So watching what the characters withhold tells us more about who they are than what they actually say. Walt, he's underplaying the extent to which he wanted to adapt his dad's books. Richard tries to play off the argument he had with Harlan, trying to pass it off as, well, that was a completely separate conversation. That wasn't about me. He was arguing with somebody else, I'm sure. And then just the conversations with Meg's mom about embezzling money. You see this wide range of personalities for them. You get their motivations, you get who they are, you get what they hide. And it's just this really artful, I guess it's a setup. It just paints such a comprehensive picture of what they're like as people. And it's this perfect mystery. Because really, any of them could have done it. Which I think is a very fascinating way to set up the mystery story. It's very on the nose, but it's very artfully done. You have the setup for the victim, and then you have the setup for the perpetrators in a literal police interrogation. It sounds very clunky, but it's so artfully done.
Mm-hmm. And he manages to do it in a different way than Clue.
Yeah.
Which it could have just been like Clue 2.0.
Yeah.
So he had to do something different, but he set it up very similarly with the alibis or lack thereof and the motives and all that kind of stuff and the evidence. Which is why he then very quickly changes it to, this isn't a whodunit movie. You know who done it.
Yeah.
And you just don't know the entire story.
It's a really good twist.
Yeah. Because he still manages to have a twist at the end. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but he still manages to have one. Still had me the second time I watched it. Like I watched it whenever it came out, and I didn't remember quite how it ended. Like I remembered the middle twist.
Yeah.
But I didn't remember the end twist. And at the end, I was like, I'm leaning forward, wondering what happened, even though I watched what happened right in front of my eyes.
It's a very effective twist. It's often talked about with this movie that like it changes genres. It starts off as a mystery, a murder mystery, and a very effective one too. I mean, the setup is really incredible, but it's Rian Johnson, and in this instance, it's not derogatory. This is a positive thing. But he immediately subverts your expectations by showing you in full what happened to Harlan in the moments leading up to his death. So the movie essentially is split between two main characters. The first is Benoit Blanc, the detective, and then the second is Marta, who's the housekeeper for the very, very rich family. But we see, in the flashback, we see Marta giving him medication, mixing the two up, and accidentally overdosing him on what she thinks is morphine, which leads her to believe, oh, he's about to die. I have to call an ambulance. He says no. I don't want your mom to get deported. She's undocumented. And Harlan immediately plans this complex scheme, this story, this narrative of what went on that night. And he gives her a role, essentially a script for her to play out so that she can leave and be seen as innocent, and he will stage his own suicide, which pivots the movie maybe 30 minutes in, under a third, I think, of the movie in, from a mystery of who killed him to this crime thriller where we've seen the crime, we know what happened, we know who did it and how, and the point of the film pivots to protecting Marta's mom, protecting Marta, protecting her mom, hiding her involvement in Harlan's death. And so then we witness Blanc investigating and Marta attempting to conceal her crime or her mistake. It's a very interesting way to develop the mystery.
Well, and there was another layer that I can't tell if it was just me or if it was intentional. For the way that they set up his conversations with his kids and his grandkids and all that, it almost seemed like for a minute that he planned this. There were multiple, the way that he was so quick to know exactly what to do. He was going to stage his own suicide. And then he changed the will a week before he died. And so you had that element. Whenever I watched it, there was this element of, did he switch the vials? Because whenever I was watching back through it, I remember the vials were a key part of it. And I'm like, wait, did he switch the vials? And was he in on it? And did he want to commit suicide in order to help teach his family how to be self-sufficient? Yeah. And this would be better for them because he wasn't strong enough to tell them to their faces until he knew that he was near the end. But it turned out to not be the case at all. And he just also thought that he was dying.
I do agree with your analysis there because I when I rewatch the film, I do get the distinct impression that Harlan wanted to die.
Well, it's almost like one of his murder mystery games, like a murder mystery books. That's how it looks like. I mean, it would make sense that he would know how to cover up his own, like a murder, kind of, technically. But it almost looks like he intentionally, because he wrote crime novels and mystery novels.
It's a really good character detail, because Knives Out, it's kind of a tribute to the Agatha Christie novels, the crime genre that she helped popularize, and really she pioneered. But so then the murder victim in Knives Out is a mystery crime novelist. It could almost be Agatha Christie, which I think is a good twist. But I think you're right. There's this sense in which I think he wanted to die. Maybe not then. Maybe not in that way. He seems impressed by the switched, or not. He doesn't know that they're switched, but he seems impressed by getting the vials confused. It immediately strikes him as a novel way to murder someone, and he writes it down. He's impressed by it. But there are all these other details. Like, he changed the will a week before.
And the way he's talking to her about the antidote, where he was like, "Oh, you'd be dead in like 10 minutes unless you have the antidote." And he's like, "Do you have the antidote?"
Yeah.
Like, the way he was talking about it was like, felt like he was leading the witness. Like, "Oh, you would need an antidote. Oh, do you have the antidote? Oh, you don't have the antidote. Interesting. Why don't you have the antidote? Where did it go?"
The actor plays the scene really well.
Yeah.
Right? I think there is that ambiguity. I think in a more standard reading of the film, it's this tragic thing that happens. He didn't want to die. And there's a lot of evidence to support that. I mean, he says, "I hope that I'm able to help fix some things with my family before I die," which is a weird thing to say if you're expecting to die that night.
Unless it's a thing where he just left at the opportunity because he realized what it could do.
Right. And he already took the steps. He took the big steps. He talked to everyone beforehand. He wrote him out of the will. He did all of that in advance.
Do you get the impression, this is a small thing, but do you get the impression that they don't get together very often? Because some of them,
my impression.
Some of them come from out of town.
Yeah.
But they're very comfortable with each other.
I think there's financial bonds. I don't think they talk much.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a weird dynamic. So it's revealed later on in the film, just to give full context to our conversation about how much did Harlan know? How much did he want to die? It's revealed later that Ransom switched the labels on these two identical vials. One is morphine, one is a regular medication. So Ransom switches the labels, hoping that Marta will give him morphine by mistake and overdose him. And Blanc reveals at the end that Marta did give him the proper doses of his medication, because rather than look at the labels, she went off of the weight or the feel of the vials. They look the same, but they weigh a little bit different. And so it's this muscle memory for her. It's this expertise. It's this rhythm that she has gotten herself into. It's this habit. And she's such a good nurse that she did it without reading the label. So Marta's completely innocent of this crime that we think she's committed for most of the film. And she's an excellent nurse to boot. So one of the things that Marta says is, "We need to call an ambulance. We need to call an ambulance. You might not make it, but we need to call an ambulance." And Harlan tells her no. He doesn't want to get Marta into trouble. But Blanc reveals at the end that if they had just waited, that he would have lived.
Well, and he does some math where you'll be dead in 10 minutes, and the ambulance would take at least 15.
Yeah.
From where they're at. So you could argue he's just doing some simple math, and he's like, "There's no reason to bring more attention than there needs to be. We can just stage this thing."
Right. Well, and I'll kill myself before my body is racked by morphine, and it's more obvious on a toxicology report or to the naked eye. There's all these details that make it look like it was an honest thing. He didn't expect to live long.
You just didn't expect Blanc to want a toxicology report?
I mean,
because where does that come into play? Because they act like at the end, because the toxicology report plays a key role into solving the murder, and so he's just assuming that they're not going to run one.
Well, we only see Ransom. Ransom hires Blanc only after he reads the details of the death in the paper.
Oh,
because
true.
he reads that he's expecting, oh, he died by suicide, or not even suicide. He died by an overdose. He's expecting that in the paper, and what Ransom sees instead is the slit throat, the suicide, which is not what he's expecting. He switched the vials. He was hoping him to overdose. It's only then that he hires Blanc.
Okay.
But then the toxicology report, it is this
but would
obnoxious loose thread that he hunts for the rest of the film.
Well, I think it checks out because I don't know that they would do a toxicology report on a suicide.
Yeah.
The other officers...
Well, especially one so obvious.
Well, and the other detectives thought that it was a suicide case closed. He was the only one who said, let's leave this open a little bit longer. Just give me another day. Give me another 2 days. Yeah. I just got to run down some leads. So I guess they wouldn't have run one if it was a standard suicide.
I do think...
Unless there was money involved.
Unless there's money involved.
And the family needed one to justify them getting some of the inheritance.
Yes. It's a tough film to talk about because it's very detail oriented. There's all these tiny details that come together to paint this tapestry of the narrative. It's really artfully done. But Ransom, he's a good example. His motive shifts, or not so much his motive, I guess his means. He wants his share of the inheritance. How he gets it, he has to take kind of contradictory actions to get there. And there's a poetic irony in that. He's found by the detective that he hired because his motive has driven him to do so many contradictory things and in this pursuit. He's not internally consistent, I guess. He wants the money, but it keeps him from pursuing it, I think, in a coherent way. He has to shift, he has to adapt, he has to think on the fly. And so he does leave these loose threads, one of which is Blanc, who is his undoing along with Marta. I just can't shake the reading that Harlan anticipated a death. Maybe not that death, but he changed his will a week before. He made sure to talk to everybody in his family, who, like you said, they don't see each other much.
That's why I asked the question, because if they don't see each other very often, and he's turning 85, maybe he's just taking advantage and because he doesn't know when he's going to die, he doesn't know how many more years he has. Maybe he's just using this as a way to set things right. That way he can see, because he was like, I'm trying to take steps before I die. I want to make some things right. And so firing Walt, for instance, he might be able to help him start his own thing and see that come to fruition, and take care of Meg, see her graduate from college, and and tell his daughter that Richard's having an affair.
Yeah.
So it's contradictory in some ways, but he does seem like or maybe he was just enthralled with the whole idea as it was happening.
I think that's part of it.
And then he gets to finally live out what he's written for the past 40, 50 years.
I would agree with that. I think the ease with which he slips into planning Marta's alibi, it shows that he's used to the state of mind.
Yeah.
We learn from Harlan's daughter that he would publish about 2 books a year. So he's very prolific, very productive. You get the sense that he's good at it, and it comes naturally to him. I think there's a sense in which he anticipated some kind of death, whether from old age or somebody lashing out at him. I think that's why he changed the will. He pissed off everybody in his life, really. I think he anticipated some kind of pushback. He might not have known from who or how. I think he anticipated not living long. And I think that that's evidenced by the ease with which he accepts his death. I think he finds himself in a situation where his death isn't something that just happens. I think he would have accepted that. It's something that puts Marta and her family in jeopardy. And I think that's why he leaps into it so quickly. But I agree with you. I think you're right. I think he gets a little bit enthralled by the story element of it. His life is a story. His life is a game, and it's in his last moments. His kids talk about that a lot, about it was tough to connect with him. You had to kind of play a game with him. You had to play Go. Ransom talks about that. Marta talks about that. His daughter talks about it. There's this sense in which I think his death is a suicide, because he would have lived otherwise. He inflicts circumstances or takes choices all on his own against the recommendation of others that result in his death. I don't think that would have happened if he hadn't written mystery novels for most of his life.
And I think that I was going to say that Rian Johnson picking that as his profession makes it instantly believable.
Yeah.
It's not just some billionaire businessman who runs like a oil company saying this is how we stage a murder.
Right.
It's 40, 50 years of this dude's career.
Yeah.
And it helps with the setting. It helps with his son being connected. It helps him with being wealthy. There's multiple things it does, but the main thing is I instantly believe that this is this is airtight.
Yeah.
So, and it instantly leads credibility to the rest of the movie because that's such a key point. You have to make it believable that they could stage this like this. And the only way to do that is if he was a police officer or wrote about murders for however long he did.
And so it's a character piece where it reveals a lot about him as a person, similar to The House, but it contributes to this detail-oriented narrative that Knives Out is. So I think it works on multiple different levels simultaneously, which is something that the film does really well.
Yeah. And originally I thought that Harlan was the best member of the family, but now I don't think so because one, he did two really evil things in the movie. One, he's still using Windows XP. I'm just going to leave that there. That is heinous. It's possibly more heinous than even the second thing. Two, he kills himself right in front of Marta.
That's true.
Now as soon as she closes the door, she has a moment of shock.
Yeah.
And then she is propelled into action. Because she shuts the door and then she goes to walk away and she can't do it. And then she opens the door and then he does it. That way she has no choice.
Yeah.
So I understand that. But it's also incredibly traumatizing.
Well, and
incredibly
it's
so.
the one thing that goes wrong in the plan. Because that him slitting his throat is what gets blood on her shoe.
Yeah.
Only a little bit. And that's what Blanc sees. It's why he gets sucked in. He reveals at the end of the film, he's like, oh, well, I knew you were involved. There's blood on your shoe. So it is this one flaw. And I think that works well with what you were saying, where it's Harlan, like a character flaw. He rejects her suggestion to call an ambulance. Does he?
But his math
do
makes
that?
sense. His math makes sense.
And it's
with
math
what
that's
he knew
based
at the
off
time.
his trust in her. So it's tough to paint
and
that as...
I mean, I'm not a medical expert, but the movie implies that she's absolutely accurate. If she had given him the wrong medication, he would have died within that time frame.
Yeah.
I have no reason to believe that what her time frame she gave wasn't accurate.
Absolutely.
What wasn't accurate was that he didn't get the right medicine. That's not true.
Yeah.
So...
And he does it to protect Marta. You get the sense that there's a real affection there. I think, he already knew that he cared about Marta. He already needed a friend. Marta was his friend. He'd already written his family out of the will. It's ambiguous how many of these decisions were made in advance, or what Harlan was anticipating.
I do think it's a good choice to have him... Because his kids talk about how he was tough to connect with.
Yeah.
It was hard to know, like, they knew that he loved them, but it was very hard to connect with. But the thing that is most sacrificial that he does isn't for his kids.
Yeah.
It's for somebody who he wished was his kid. Because his kids are terrible people. They're horrible people.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So one of the things, this is a good segue into another key aspect of the film. And that I think is just wealth.
Okay.
So one of the big themes of the movie is class or wealth. So you have the rich and the poor, and the rich characters are so obnoxious. They are stupid. These guys are idiots. And they're not fun to be around, and they're petty backstabbers, and they're all claiming that they're self-made. They all claim that they did it on their own.
But they if you notice, they all laugh at each other whenever the other person says it.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
well, and they all
every
panic
time
when they think that they're going to be cut off from Harlan's wealth, and it's like, well, what's the problem? You're self-made. You're a self-made millionaire. What's the issue?
Well, and then they're actively in denial.
Yeah.
When he went around and talked to them at the party, and then whenever they're about to read the will, like Joni knows she's not, because I think he tells at least Ransom that he edited the will.
Yeah.
But he told Joni, this is the last check you're getting.
Yeah.
But she's still at the will reading, like, maybe he didn't change the will. Maybe I'm still in there.
Right.
They're all in denial.
Yeah. And it's a really good aspect of their characters because I guess I'm trying to think of which part to work through first. It's just such a prevalent theme. It's central to the movie.
It's everywhere.
I'll talk about the family first. Because you mentioned a good point with Joni. She's in denial. The whole family is. They think they're in... Well, and Ransom, he's there.
Yeah.
Is he expecting the money? Is he just there to watch his family collapse and dig into each other? It appears to be the second one, but his reactions seem very genuine. Mm-hmm. He seems a little surprised at how it all shakes out. I think... I mean, Harlan tells him that he's going to give it all to Marta. He does seem a little bit surprised, I think.
Well, something happened. I can't remember how the timeline works out, but he learns about some sort of piece of evidence or something, and Blanc says that he's riding high going into the will reading, and he just wants to see everyone be upset.
Yeah.
But in the film, he does look a little shocked. Maybe it's just this visceral, like, it's one thing to hear him say it, and then now it's in legal writing. There's no reversing this, and so that hits him. But there's a reason why he chooses to be there no matter what, because he's like, ooh, I just learned this really cool information. I'm getting away scot-free.
Yes.
I want to hear this.
And I think, so the family, they have these varied politics, or they claim to.
Yeah.
You have the literal, the far right kid who just posts troll memes and
which is hilarious.
Aggressive posts.
It's
all
so
day.
funny.
Funny.
It's such a like he didn't have to put that in there, but he did, and it's like
right.
Anyway,
the film. This is a sidebar, but the film is very modern.
Yeah, extremely so.
The detective says stuff is weak sauce. Meg is like, I don't smoke joints. I use a Juul. That's way better for me. You have the far right edgy kid who's always posting. Characters reference each other's Instas. It feels like a modern story in a way that's refreshing.
Well, and this conversation they're having while Harlan's talking with Ransom is obviously about Trump.
Yeah,
it's obviously. I don't think they say his name, but it starts with saying like it leads into talking about like the president, and then immigration and all that kind of stuff. So it is they're pigeonholing themselves and saying this is where the time period where this movie takes place. And 50 years from now, you could look back and be like, that's what life was like.
Absolutely, you have all these different opinions on immigration and the state of the country, and they're all going back and forth. I think that this is a way that Rian Johnson likes to portray politics in his stories. I think we see that in stuff like The Last Jedi, where the politics in that movie are a lot of characters standing around talking about stuff that happens elsewhere, rather than characters who are enmeshed in it. When George Lucas does it, the characters are in the Senate proposing the bills. And when Rian Johnson does it, it's a lot of average people talking about what somebody is doing somewhere else. He's more interested in how people get caught up in politics than I think the process of legislation, which is fair. I mean, it's a narrative choice. We have these, like, the far right teen, but then we have a sister who her mom describes as a crypto Marxist at college.
It's so funny.
It's very funny.
Again, like, I don't know, funny may not be the right word, but it's very amusing. And
there's this funny detail where they state their political ideologies, and their dad, Walt, he's just like, I have no idea what these words mean. Like, I have no idea what any of these mean.
Yeah, if it's outside of the publishing company, he has no clue.
And so you have all these varied opinions. Richard, he has more right-wing views on immigration, and he tries to use Marta as a prop for that. He starts off and he's like, oh, you're part of the family. I think you should have been at the funeral. And then he's like, hey, what country are you from? Like, Paraguay, right? You immigrated here the right way. Why can't more people be like Marta? It's like, well, she didn't. I mean, first off, we don't know what country Marta's from. It's never stated.
Well, yeah, they state multiple.
They state multiple. We never hear Marta say. I don't think it matters, to be honest.
You get the sense that it's just the logistics of the situation. Her mom came here, across the border illegally, and then she's a dreamer.
Yes.
That's the implication that I got.
And I think that the political implication to their status is like, well, they're both Americans. That seems to be the angle that the movie takes. I think it consciously, denies you what country they're from in the same way that some works will deny you, maybe a key element of who a character used to be, or, an element that might be turned against them if it were common knowledge. It's something where it's like, well, they're Americans. They're in the country. That seems to be the angle that the film takes.
Mm-hmm.
I think pretty strongly. But they don't know what country she's from. Her mom is an undocumented immigrant. And so there's this sense of, there's the rich people's politics, which are so varied. You have right wing, you have left wing, you have liberals, you have conservatives, you have the super opinionated, you have the, I don't even keep up with politics. I have no idea what any of these words mean. But as soon as their money is threatened, all of those distinctions disappear. It no longer matters. All of them say, that is mine. I'm keeping my wealth, my house. I'm keeping the rights to the books. The supposed politics that they espouse vanish. And even the crypto-Marxist, she's like, oh, well, I think we should be nice to Marta. And her family goes, you're going to be poor. You're not going back to college. And she falls in line real quick. And so there's this argument, I think, that the film makes where class warfare is paramount. In some formulations, you can say that politics just comes down to class. What do you own? How do you make money? Your opinion on landlords is almost solely determined by whether you own an apartment complex or whether you rent an apartment. So there's this sense of all politics is kind of this class-based, people want to get ahead in life. And all these supposed distinctions that they espouse, they don't matter as soon as their wealth is threatened.
Well, and I would go even further and say that politics go away whenever your environment's threatened. And that's basically what you just said, but my mind immediately went to the aftermath of 9/11. Whenever the country had this window of time where politics disappeared. That's because the idea of American vulnerability and safety and security and all of that was immediately was disintegrated.
Yeah.
And so everyone came together because in this movie it's very selfish. They're not in here to save their wealth. They're here to save them as individuals, their wealth share.
Yeah.
But in the aftermath of 9/11, you have the country coming together because everyone was scared.
Yeah.
But it's not as explicitly selfish. It's us as a country, patriotism was on the rise and everything. So
and that's
politics just goes away.
You get scenes like what's in the first Spider-Man movie, with everybody in New York throwing junk at the Green Goblin. Like, well, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, thank you, 2002. This is great.
Yeah, this is, Me 23 years later.
I'm sure that New York still feels this.
Oh, yeah.
It's just this thing where...
I do agree there is a class element. I think that is interesting to explore.
Yeah.
I think that on a base human level, whenever a shared experience is threatened, people tend to come together and forget all of their differences.
And I think... So something like 9/11, it's not explicitly class-based. It's not an attack on the rich from the poor, or an attack on the poor from the rich. It's an attack on America by a terrorist network. And you can trace back the wealth or the class elements of that, but it's not explicit. And it's not one-to-one.
Yeah.
You're the obnoxious guy at the party. If somebody's talking about 9/11 and you're going like, oh, well, did you know that the CIA funded the Mujahideen and this is long-term blowback from our class warfare politics against the Soviet Union? It's like, well, nobody cares. Nobody cares. You're talking to an American.
I think someone should care.
Oh, they should care, but they don't. They don't. You're the obnoxious guy at the party for talking through that. And I think that's because there's this chain you have to walk through. In Knives Out, it's one-to-one. Like it's nakedly about class. And the matter at stake, it isn't oh, well, I did this for my interests, or I did this because of my long-term financial prospects. It's like, this is the inheritance. You are getting all of it or none of it. And I think that we see that paralleled in survival environments, because you're right. You drop 8 people in a deserted island, and they're going to show the same dynamics that this family is. Because it's a matter of life or death. I think people will fight tooth and nail to protect what they have, and I think that goes double for their life. But I think it's interesting. You just see all their distinctions, and I think that that's something really beautiful the film does at the beginning when it's setting up their potential motives. You're like, any of them could have done it. They're so diverse. There's so many different reasons that they might have done this. And then all of this diversity, all this range is just completely erased.
Yeah,
because they all want to stay rich.
They turn into a mob. They are so, and they are, like you're saying, they're so individual at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like they go out of their way to make sure because I know every single one of their personalities.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't even matter. And at the end, they explore some of the endings of the characters' relationship. Richard's affair comes out, and then Walt and the other family members are grappling with the revelation of what's happening. But they do turn into this faceless, voidless force.
Yeah.
Trying to just take down Marta. So
absolutely. And I guess Marta is working class. She works. She's a nurse. She has a job. She gets paid. But I think we see a similar establishing of her life and her as a character by her apartment. We see Harlan's mansion, and then we see her apartment, which she shares with her family. Her mom, her sister. I think it's her sister. Mm-hmm. It's cramped. It's poor. If the TV's on, you can't hear the radio. They're eating cheap cereal. There's this huge divide between them. You have Harlan living in this gigantic mansion alone, and you have Marta living in this tiny apartment with her whole family. There's this huge class divide. And I think that that's really the tension at the heart of the film. I also think that Blanc, this isn't a case he chose. He joined the case because a gigantic envelope filled with cash showed up outside of his door. So he's summoned into the film by money. If capital comes calling, he is there. Not in like a negative sense, but he isn't there by his own agency. He didn't see this in the newspaper and think, oh, this is interesting. It's this force of wealth. Ransom summons him because Ransom is wealthy because of his stake in the inheritance. But Marta's dragged into it. Blanc is drawn into it, and it's all because of money. Money is the central motivating thing, I think. And I think you could even read Harlan that way. He's used to viewing things as a story, as a mystery. It's a mind game. He wouldn't be in that habit of thought if he didn't make his money that way. And I don't think that that's like a radical critique of him. I think his actions are shaped by the way he made money. And I think that he kind of regrets being rich. I think he sees how his kids turned out, his grandkids. I don't think he's happy with it.
I think it put him in a bubble.
Yeah.
The way that he made his money.
Yeah.
He was allowed to think the way that he did because he was so rich.
Yeah.
He didn't have to think any other way. And then he fumbled the ball with his kids.
Yeah.
So, and then they had their own bubbles they were living in.
And I think that's why he likes Marta so much. Is because she's working class. And his gift to his kids is to make them working class, which is a weird gift, to give poverty to your children. But I think he sees the shallowness of his own kids compared to his friend Marta. I think class is a huge thing. All the characters in the film are limited or motivated by money. Harlan, his horizons of thought, what he can conceive of. His kids, what they can do. Blanc, the reason he's there. There's just this magnetic quality to wealth that draws all the other characters into its orbit. And it's what the story revolves around. I think it's very artfully done.
Yeah. No, those are good points. This is a working theory that I've been mulling over in my head as we've been talking, and it may be completely inaccurate. But I feel like the way that Rian Johnson likes to tell stories is that the world, and in Star Wars' case, the universe, happens to the main characters. In Last
Okay.
Jedi, there's very few things the main characters do that they just decided to do. In this movie, the only person with real agency feels like Ransom.
Yeah.
The only one who's actively driving things, and because Marta, everything kind of happens to her up until the very, very end of the movie,
Yeah.
which we haven't even talked about her lying thing
Yes.
and
That's
and
true.
how that impacts things. At the very end of the movie, she does take a stand and she actively affects the plot. But up until then, like her, I guess her kindness in saving Fran, but whenever she was gonna die,
Yeah.
that was something that she chose to do. But that was part of her nature, and she felt like she couldn't help but do that. But I think about The Last Jedi, and I can't think of anything besides Kylo Ren killing Snoke.
Yeah.
Which at that point, his status as a villain or a hero is kind of undetermined. But it seems like things happen to them more than them affecting the world.
I think, yeah, I agree with that. Knives Out, it's an anomaly because Blanc isn't an active character.
He's a fly on the wall.
He's a fly on the wall, and he's ostensibly the protagonist. Marta is also not a driving force because she does exactly what she's supposed to. Ransom switched the vials on her. And then Harlan comes up with her alibi. We see Marta, she plays an active role in covering it up.
Yeah,
Blanc
yes.
invites her.
Yeah.
She erases the tape. She covers her footprints. She hides the wooden
Piece of, yeah.
Yeah, that she knocked over. Or broke off, rather. And Blanc, he's along for the ride. He listens. He's very personable. He's not a forensic detective. He doesn't do a lot of legwork in this film. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's the character. He notices the blood on Marta's shoes. And he notices the wooden piece when the dog brings it up to him and drops it on his shoe. And it's only then that he discovers, oh, there's mud and some debris up here and the secret door to the window. I mean, really, he and Ransom both, they're these threats because they're personable. They understand people. They listen to people. They know how to play people. I think we see that in the interview where Blanc, he asks some family members, like, oh, did they fight? And he just gets immediate pushback. They're not happy to see him. And so then he pivots and he goes to the ones he knows will answer it better. He knows people. That's what makes him a good detective. Not his knowledge of chemicals or, what paint is or the size of people's footprint. Not the Sherlock Holmes stuff so much as he is personable. He's an empathetic person. He doesn't expose Marta right away. He wants to know the truth, whatever the truth is. But you're right. He is this weird fly on the wall character who the world happens to him. He does not.
And he takes it
change
in.
it.
And he talks about
Yeah.
that whenever he's talking about, I think he called it Gravity's Rainbow.
Yeah.
Whenever he's talking to Marta in the courtyard.
He's such
and
a
he's
good
like,
character. He has so many of these fun turns of phrase.
Yeah. I think it was like it's an actual book or something, or maybe it's one they made up. I don't know. But he's just he even says, I let things take me, and then wherever I land, I just see where I land.
Yeah.
And I make observations, and I bring it together. And he does that throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
You could argue whenever he chases Ransom and Marta in the car that he is impacting the plot then, but it's not even for her, for the main character. He's arresting Ransom,
Right. Yeah.
not even her. So
I think you can extend that into the class commentary a little bit, I think, because the only character with agency is Harlan initially. He cuts everybody off the will. And then Ransom counteracts that. He poisons them, and then he hires Blanc. And he does both of those with money. So money is what gives you agency in the story. Whereas Marta, she's poor. She can't really do that much. Blanc, he's hired. He can't really do that much. Ransom, he has this freedom because of his wealth. He snatches Marta away from the family. With the car, people repeatedly make comments about him not being able to afford. He pays for her meal and gets information out of her. He hires Blanc to get more information. there's all these times where Ransom does things. He takes actions via money. Because he has money, he's able to do X, Y, Z.
I think that the naming him Ransom is pretty good now that I think about it too.
It is. That's really the cherry on top. You know?
For him, yeah.
It's so fun. It is so much fun. I think there is this sense in which he's enabled to be active because he has wealth.
But it's his grandfather's wealth.
It is.
Which is another layer there.
And so then it's this weird thing where he acts, but he's not free because he has to act in ways to maintain his wealth. And that's what we were talking about earlier, where he takes these weird actions, like he's caught by the detective he hires.
Yeah.
But it was the action he had to take at the time. And so he's always taking the action that he has to take to maintain or acquire wealth. And I think, there's a class element to that as well. How free are the rich? We think of them as being really free. Are they ever free to do something in pursuit of something other than money? Often the answer is no,
Which is unfathomable.
It is unfathomable.
It's very hard to believe. And then but does that mean that
they're enslaved to it?
Does that mean that you should feel pity for them?
Because
if they are, as you said, enslaved to it and
addicts.
The lifestyle that they've created, then are they? I mean, it's their own actions, but are they victims at that point? They did it to themselves, and they choose to continue to perpetrate it. But in this movie, like Ransom feels like he has no choice. They all feel like they have no choice.
Ransom, he probably doesn't have choice because he can pursue wealth in which he has to do these things, or he can be poor. He can be working class, and then he's forced to do whatever some other rich person wants him to do.
Mm-hmm. And he has the line where he says that it was at that moment that I realized I would have to fend for myself.
Yeah.
That has a dual meaning. At first you think he
Yeah.
has to fend for himself, and then he says, no, I'm going to help you, and then just give him my share of the inheritance, and then it meant I'm going to take this whole thing. But even at the end, he didn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to take everything.
No,
He just wanted what was his.
Yeah. Well, and there's this sense of property rights, and it's mine. It's my thing. I just want my thing, and my thing is really my grandfather's thing. And he mentions that at the end where he's like, "This is our ancestral family home. It's been in our family for generations." And Blanc is like, "No, it hasn't.
One generation.
One generation.
2 or 3.
He bought this from a Pakistani land developer.
Yeah.
It's not even American.
Yeah.
Our ancestral family home, our birthright." And he phrases it in these like white racial terms, similar to the Nazi kid when he's like, "Oh, Marta's an anchor baby." Like that's the slur he reaches for, the ugly little coward. He's just this pathetic little weasel, man.
Oh man, I couldn't help but think of young Sheldon the entire time though. Like, just if he had a slightly different upbringing, that would have been him.
We're not talking about young Sheldon. I'm not gonna say he's problematic because that feels unserious.
Well, in this conversation, problematic means not great.
I think it's not groundbreaking. This is horribly off topic.
I've never seen it. I have no clue.
Young Sheldon, for a kid raised in Texas in like the 80s, is about as anti-racist as you probably could have ended up.
That was a very charitable way to put it.
It's a very charitable way to say he's super racist. It's super charitable. But, he's...
But they make it work.
I think
his words, not mine.
I'm not going to talk through the racial politics of young Sheldon. I'm not going to do it. Because it's not the...
You're right. Is it the time or place? Is this the time or place? That kid does look a lot like young Sheldon. I'm telling you. Just from a guy who's never seen young Sheldon, I was like, that's him.
For somebody who has no idea what I'm talking about, I think it's just like this.
It's just like it. It's the spitting image. You can't tell me I'm wrong because I don't know if what you're saying is true or not because I've never seen it.
That's fair.
I just got to throw it out.
He does look like young Sheldon. And, this is very similar, I think, to Superman. Because Lex Luthor also looks just like young Sheldon.
You did say that. He
looks just like him.
I love how you said he looks like young Sheldon instead of Sheldon.
He doesn't look like the old Sheldon.
He looks like young Sheldon.
He looks like the young one. He does.
So funny. So funny.
I'm just saying, I think
What are you saying?
I started that sentence. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I think Lex
My
Luthor.
bad.
I think he looks like young Sheldon. That's even less relevant to what we were talking about.
What were we talking about?
The inheritance, private property.
It being their ancestral home.
Oh yeah, he phrases it in these racial terms, and so he's probably racist too. He's probably a little bit racist. Oh well, and he's like, oh, she's from Brazil. You don't know what country she's from either. Mm-hmm. You're just throwing stuff out.
Yeah, he says
there.
you're a Brazilian nurse.
Yeah, and I don't know. He's well cast. First off, casting Chris Evans in the role after Chris Evans has played Captain America for a decade, I think at this point, brilliant. Audiences have expectations. They bring into the film. They expect him to be this nice guy,
and he seems like he's a little bit of a rebel, and he isn't. But then he is a nice guy,
right? And then there's the twist, and it's very well done. The casting in this film is phenomenal. Everybody's bringing their A game. And should we feel bad for the rich, to answer your question? Should we feel bad for the rich because they're obligated to act in ways that make more money, that they're not really free? Maybe they have a lot of leisure time, but they don't have a lot of freedom in their agency. They're obligated to react to the market in certain ways, to the unpredictability they create.
A public image they have to uphold, not so much in this movie, but
yeah.
They do have to think about public opinion to some degree because it is a well-known company with a fan base, I would imagine.
It is. I don't think we're obligated to feel bad for the rich. They're addicts. They like their wealth. They can cry about it, but they can be poor anytime they want. If they really don't want the money.
That is crazy how it works that way.
They can get rid of it. If I wanted to be rich, I'd have to do a whole bunch of legwork, whole bunch of speculation and exploitation to make that much money. And it's like there's nothing stopping you from becoming like a billionaire socialist, like what's to stop you from using your gigantic wealth to buy freedom for all people? It's like, I'm trapped. I'm trapped by my wealth. I'm gonna take my money and I'm gonna do good with it and bring freedom to everybody.
Do you think Joseph Stalin was the first billionaire socialist?
Dear God.
Every time, folks.
Well, first off, Stalin. I think that's a good takeaway, and for the film, which this podcast is allegedly about.
It's about, yes.
I couldn't prove it in a court of law, but I think
supposed to be about Knives Out.
If you don't want to raise a bunch of entitled psychopaths who are always backbiting each other and ripping the family apart, don't raise them in cushy multimillionaire lifestyles, Make your kids create something for themselves. Make your kids something other than little extensions of yourself and your wealth or your personality. I think if you don't want to make monsters, don't allow the conditions for monsters. I think that is a broad enough theme that ties together.
That ties the two together.
Horribly disparate discussions.
Sure. I'll take your word for it. That was a roller coaster.
Is there anything else about the film Knives Out that we want to talk about?
Well, we got to talk about Marta's gag reflex. Because
okay,
it's a big part of the movie.
Okay,
it's a big part of the movie. Okay,
Marta can't lie. If she does, she throws up.
But that's the only thing.
It's a very fun character.
That's the only thing that gives her some sort of agency at the end of the movie.
It's true. It's a moment of growth.
Because throughout the movie, Blanc, at the beginning, near the beginning, starts asking her questions. And he had heard from the family that she has this issue that she can't lie because even the thought of lying is like makes her want to vomit. And so he uses that to his advantage to try to gain some information out of her that she wouldn't otherwise want to give and it's not because she likes these people. She just doesn't want to lose her job. She's also trying to not give away herself. So there's some self-preservation there, but it's used against her multiple times. Blanc does it,
Hmm.
and then Ransom does it whenever they're having lunch, and he's trying to get information out of her to get her side of the story, and she has no choice but to tell him.
Yeah.
And so then at the end of the movie, she uses it against Ransom.
Yeah.
And she gets him to, because that's really key about this movie. The solving of the crime is not provable.
It's true.
You can't prove it.
Yeah, there's no evidence. There's nothing on the toxicology report. He did slit his own throat. There was only one witness.
And so
who is the accused.
Right. And so they needed a confession.
Which they get. And the confession that they get is him killing Fran, which I think is an interesting twist.
He doesn't even really get convicted for killing Harlan.
Yeah. He gets convicted for killing the poor maid.
Yeah.
So again, there's this class element to it. The people that we're often more likely to forget, is the one that brings him to justice. It's the live nurse and the dead maid. Those are the ones that bring him down, which I think is a good. It really hammers home the theme, I think, of, there's all these mystery stories where it's the rich, and they don't even interrogate the help. The waiters, the butlers, the maids, they don't even interrogate them. They're just window dressing. They're decor. They investigate, the family or the other business people or whatever. It's like, well, there's other suspects in the house. And I think what is very refreshing in Knives Out is this commitment to treating everyone as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
It really humanizes the people that are most likely to be dehumanized in these types of stories.
Well, yeah, and it's Fran and Marta, but then it's also Blanc, obviously.
Yeah.
Who's not rich himself either. I mean, obviously, he got a cash full of envelope or envelope full of cash, and he was like, "Yeah, I gotta go do this because I like money, and this is enough for me to drop everything I'm doing and come over." So,
yeah,
everyone who's not rich in the movie is who takes him down.
Yeah,
and the family's just left trying to pick up the pieces.
And it's, man, I love this movie. It's such an empathetic movie. It has so much empathy for people. It really invites you to empathize with Marta, to empathize with these poor people, with the undocumented immigrants, with Blanc. It invites you to condemn the rich for their rich, cushy lives built on negativity and exploitation. And just the takeaway of the film, I feel like, is just, it's just this great invitation to kindness. I feel like Blanc, he's so kind with Marta. He sees the blood on her shoe. He doesn't rat her out. He seeks the truth. And then his interactions with her are just so warm and positive. He's joking around. He says, "I make a poor detective, you make a bad murderer." And she laughs. There's just this real warmness and human element to it.
Well, and
it's refreshing to see.
He sits with the matriarch as well.
Yes, he's the only one who sees her as a human being.
Yeah, and she's not just this inanimate object that's always been there for their entire lives.
Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And
great movie.
Knives Out, it continues this class critique in Glass Onion, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I don't remember the title. I think it's Dead Man.
Tell No Tales.
I want to say Tell No Tales. That sounds like a Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
That is it's the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Pirates of the Caribbean movies, thankfully, have nothing to do with class and should not be interpreted that way.
It is Wake Up Dead Man.
Wake Up Dead Man. Okay.
And it's still Blanc, right?
It's still Blanc. So that's something interesting in these films. The Blanc, he's a protagonist.
Oh, he's long hair. Interesting.
But he's often paired with another character who serves as a type of protagonist with him. So I'm interested to see what they do with the third one. At the time of recording, the film is not out.
This is kind of a star-studded movie, too.
All of them are. They do a really good job with it.
Yeah.
It's such a great formula. Clever whodunit murder mysteries with star-studded casts and class critiques. It's a winning formula.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good.
I agree.
I think I'm excited to see what they do with the third one. It'll probably be out on Netflix sometime soon, whenever this is released.
Mid-December or something.
Yeah.
Like that. so a few weeks after this is released. So
Yeah.
I can't remember when this is going to be released, but it's coming soon. It's coming soon, and I'll watch it because I like these movies a lot. I haven't seen Glass Onion in a long time either. I remember less about that one. I know there's a lot of memes that came out of it, but other than that, I can't remember much about that one. But this one was really, really good. What would you rate it?
Oh, this one? I would rate this one a 10. I really don't know how this movie could be better.
Like, can we think of? I would give it a 10 too, but is there a critique?
I really don't have one.
I'm following. I can't think of one.
It doesn't even fall into like the usual traps that these stories sometimes hit, where it's like misogynistic in the victims. You know, it's like, oh, well, like, we're going to be brutal towards women and we're going to kill them and shove them into fridges and stuff. It's like there's two victims. There's one dude, there's a woman, a rich guy, and a poor woman. It's like it's pretty even-handed.
Because the only thing you could argue is that it's racist to have have Marta doing what she's doing in the house and being part of the help, as they call them. But that in and of itself is just a reflection of the family's views.
Yes. Well, and the real world.
And the real world.
The economic arrangements that we've set up.
Right. That's not on the film. So like I don't have a critique.
I can't think of any. It's wonderfully shot. The music is fun. The characters are well acted. The details. The movie does a great job of packing every single line of dialogue and every shot with information, and it all comes to fruition and everything's relevant. There's not a lot of dead time in the film. There's a car chase, maybe. Car chase didn't do much for me. The detective calls it the worst car chase ever. It's like, that's fine, but
and there's a twist at the end of it. They're not even chasing her,
right? And so
and she's in a crappy vehicle. Like, it's funny. They could have just as easily had it in his car instead of her car.
It's not.
But they chose not to have it in his car.
It's not a problem with the film. If I have to critique it, if I have to get something, I'm going to go with that. Car chase, a little long, not jam-packed with information. Not a big deal. It's a 10. It's a 10. I think it's a 10 out of 10.
I do, yeah. If I can't find anything wrong with it, it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. It's creative. It's innovative.
I don't like giving things 10s.
Kickstarted a franchise that so far is 2 for 2 in terms of slam dunks in my book. And I think it's a really good story on just the nature of wealth, the way that it shapes us, and the way that it tries to erase certain types of people, or the way that wealth can warp us and push us not to have empathy for certain types of people. So it's a good reminder. We should be more empathetic to others than we should. We should recognize people are often less free than they think, and that even some of the worst people of our era or past eras are limited in the actions that they can take. Does that mean we should be empathetic towards these enslaved, awful people who are making our lives miserable? That is a question for you to decide in the comments.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it here. But for all working class people, you should have empathy. All of them. Every single one of them. For the rich, for the ruling class, it's up to you. Debate it in the comments.
Well, and
you should probably have empathy, but
speaking of empathy, I empathize with you if you stuck around to the end and listened to this entire thing. Please like and subscribe if you like what you see.
Yeah.
Debate down in the comments everything that we said. If you agree, disagree, we'd like to know. And disagree strongly, that's fine. We like that too.
We'll circle back and talk to it at some point. So it'd be nice to have some new talking points or revisions in our thought process and opinions as well.
Absolutely. You have anything else?
If you have a story that you were interested in having us cover on the podcast,
absolutely,
please recommend it. We will do movies, books, video games, any type of story. We will overanalyze it and get wildly off topic.
All right, as we do. Thank you for watching.